The 1962 Lincoln Memorial Cent is a United States 1-cent coin, commonly called a penny, struck in 1962 at the Denver Mint in Denver, which is why the coin has the small d mint mark below the date. This coin belongs to the Lincoln Cent series, first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. The front side of the coin, called the obverse, shows the right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Around the portrait are several inscriptions that represent American national identity and values. At the top of the coin is the phrase, "In God We Trust," which became the official national motto of the United States in 1956. On the left side of Lincoln's portrait appears the word liberty, symbolizing the fundamental political principle on which the country was founded. Below the portrait is the date 1962 with a D mint mark, indicating it was produced at the Denver Mint rather than the Philadelphia Mint or the San Francisco Mint. The reverse side of the coin, used from 1959 to 2008, features the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., designed by Frank Gasparo, who served as chief engraver of the United States Mint. Above the memorial is the inscription, "United States of America," and directly beneath it appears the Latin phrase E Pluribus Unum, which means out of many one, representing the union of the original states into a single nation. At the bottom of the reverse side is the denomination 1 cent. Interestingly, if viewed closely with magnification, the tiny seated statue of Abraham Lincoln inside the Lincoln Memorial can actually be seen on the coin, making it one of the few coins in the world that depicts the same person on both sides. The 1962 Lincoln Memorial Cent was made primarily of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, weighing about 3.11 grams, with a diameter of 19 millimeters and a plain edge. During the early 1960s, the United States produced large quantities of pennies because of growing economic activity and population, and the Denver Mint struck over 1.7 billion of these coins in 1962, making it a very common coin in circulation. Because of this high mintage, most examples of the coin today are not rare unless they are in exceptionally well-preserved, uncirculated, or mint-state condition. Collectors of numismatics, the study and collection of coins and currency, often keep this coin as part of a complete Lincoln Cent collection. The coin represents an important historical era in American coinage when copper pennies were still widely produced before later changes in metal composition that occurred in 1982 when the United States Mint switched to copper-plated zinc. The design of the Lincoln Memorial reverse itself was introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, replacing the earlier wheat-ear design that had been used from 1909 to 1958. In terms of collector value, the 1962 Lincoln Memorial Cent usually has a modest price because of its abundance. Circulated coins are often worth only face value, 1 cent or slightly more, while well-preserved uncirculated examples may be worth a few cents to a few dollars, depending on grading quality. Coins with original bright red copper color, known as red RD specimens, are more desirable among collectors than brown or darkened coins because they show less oxidation. Some collectors also search for rare mint errors, such as double dyes, off-center strikes, or other production mistakes, which can make an otherwise common coin much more valuable. Despite its low monetary value, the 1962 D penny remains historically significant as part of the long-running Lincoln Cent series and as a small piece of everyday American history that circulated widely during the early 1960s, a period marked by social change, economic growth, and the presidency of John F. Kennedy. Today, the coin continues to be studied and collected around the world, illustrating how even a simple 1 cent piece can carry artistic, political, and historical meaning through its inscriptions such as "In God We Trust," liberty, and E Pluribus Unum, which reflect the ideals and unity of the United States. Next up. The 1964 Lincoln Memorial Cent is a 1 cent coin of the United States and is part of the famous Lincoln Cent series, one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. This series began in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, marking the 100th anniversary of his birth. The Lincoln Cent was the first regular United States coin to feature a real historical person rather than symbolic imagery. The portrait of Abraham Lincoln that appears on the front obverse of the coin was created by sculptor and engraver Victor David Brenner. On the 1964 penny, Lincoln is shown facing to the right, and around his portrait are important national inscriptions that reflect the ideals and identity of the country. At the top of the coin is the phrase, "In God We Trust," which is the official motto of the United States. This motto expresses the country's traditional belief in faith and trust in God and has appeared on American coins since the 19th century, later becoming the official national motto in 1956. To the left of Lincoln's portrait is the word liberty, representing the fundamental principle of freedom and democratic rights that are central to American political philosophy. Below the portrait appears the year 1964, which shows the year the coin was minted. Some 1964 pennies also include a small mint mark letter under the date, such as D for coins struck at the Denver Mint, while coins without a mint mark were produced at the Philadelphia Mint. The reverse side of the 1964 Lincoln cent features the famous Lincoln Memorial, located in Washington, D.C. This design was introduced in 1959 and remained in use until 2008. It was created by Frank Gasparo, who served as the chief engraver of the United States Mint. The Lincoln Memorial design replaced the earlier weak-ear design that had been used on pennies from 1909 to 1958. The memorial is shown in a detailed architectural view, with columns and steps visible, representing the famous national monument built to honor Abraham Lincoln's leadership during the American Civil War and his role in preserving the Union. If a coin is examined closely with magnification, collectors can actually see the tiny seated statue of Abraham Lincoln inside the memorial building. This makes the Lincoln Memorial cent unique because Lincoln appears on both sides of the coin, his portrait on the front and his statue on the back. Above the memorial is the inscription, "United States of America," which identifies the issuing nation. Beneath this phrase appears the Latin motto, "E Pluribus Unum," meaning out of many one, symbolizing the unity of many states and people forming a single nation. At the bottom of the coin appears the denomination 1 cent, which represents the coin's face value in the American currency system. The 1964 Lincoln Memorial cent was made primarily of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, which was the traditional composition used for pennies for many decades. The coin weighs approximately 3.11 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters, with a plain edge rather than a reeded or decorated edge. During the early 1960s, the United States Mint produced extremely large quantities of pennies because of population growth and the expanding economy. In 1964 alone, billions of pennies were minted. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 2.6 billion coins without a mint mark, while the Denver Mint struck more than 3.7 billion coins with a D mint mark. Because of these very high production numbers, the 1964 penny is considered a common coin and can still be found in circulation or in old coin collections. However, collectors who study numismatics often preserve these coins in different conditions, ranging from heavily circulated to perfect mint state examples. Coins that remain in excellent condition with bright original copper color are often classified as red RD by professional grading services and can be more desirable among collectors than coins that have turned brown due to oxidation over time. The year 1964 was also an important time in American history. It was a period of major social and political change during the presidency of Lyndon B. Johnson following the assassination of John F. Kennedy in 1963. The United States was experiencing the Civil Rights Movement, which aimed to end racial discrimination and secure equal rights for African Americans. During this time, coins like the 1964 Lincoln cent were used daily by millions of people for ordinary purchases, making them small but meaningful artifacts of everyday life in mid-20th century America. Despite its simple appearance, the coin carries deep symbolic meaning through its inscriptions and imagery. The phrases "In God We Trust, Liberty," and "E Pluribus Unum" together express religious faith, personal freedom, and national unity, three ideals that have played an important role in shaping American identity. In terms of collector value, the 1964 Lincoln next top. The 1977 D Lincoln Memorial cent is a 1 cent coin issued by the United States and belongs to the long-running Lincoln cent series. This famous American coin series began in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the birth of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, and one of the most respected figures in American history. The Lincoln cent became historically significant because it was the first regularly circulating American coin to feature a real historical person instead of a symbolic representation such as liberty. The portrait of Abraham Lincoln seen on the front side, called the obverse, of the coin was designed by sculptor and engraver Victor David Brenner. On the 1977 D penny, Lincoln is shown in a right-facing profile with detailed facial features, including his beard and formal coat, reflecting dignity and leadership. Around the portrait appear several important inscriptions that express the values and identity of the United States. At the top of the coin is the national motto, "In God We Trust," which represents faith and trust in God and has been used on American coins since the 19th century, before becoming the official motto of the United States in 1956. To the left of Lincoln's portrait appears the word liberty, symbolizing freedom, democracy, and the rights of citizens, fundamental ideas in the American political system. Below the portrait is the year 1977, indicating the year the coin was produced, along with a small D mint mark beneath the date, showing that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint located in Denver. The reverse side of the 1977 D Lincoln cent features the well-known image of a Lincoln Memorial, a national monument located in Washington, D.C. that honors Abraham Lincoln's leadership during the American Civil War and his role in preserving the United States as a unified nation. This reverse design was created by Frank Gasparo, the chief engraver of the United States Mint, and was introduced in 1959 to replace the earlier wheat ears design that had appeared on Lincoln cents from 1909 to 1958. The memorial is shown in a detailed architectural style with columns and steps, representing the famous marble building that houses the large seated statue of Abraham Lincoln. If the coin is carefully examined with magnification, it is possible to see the tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial building, which makes this coin unique because it shows the same person on both sides, Lincoln's portrait on the front and his statue on the back. Above the memorial appears the inscription, "United States of America," which identifies the issuing nation. Just below that phrase is the Latin motto E Pluribus Unum, meaning out of many one, which represents the union of many states and diverse people forming a single country. At the bottom of the reverse side is the denomination, 1 cent, indicating the monetary value of the coin in the American currency system. The 1977 D. Lincoln Memorial cent was produced using a metal composition that had changed earlier in the decade due to rising copper prices. Unlike older pennies that were mostly copper, the 1977 penny is made of 95% copper with the remaining 5% consisting of zinc, though in practical terms the coin is primarily copper in appearance. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams and has a diameter of about 19 millimeters, with a smooth or plain edge. During the 1970s, the United States Mint produced very large numbers of pennies because of high demand for small denomination coins in everyday commerce. In 1977, the Denver Mint produced more than 4.1 billion Lincoln cents, making the 1977 D penny a very common coin in circulation. Because of the extremely high mintage, most examples of this coin are not considered rare and are usually worth only their face value unless they are in exceptional uncirculated condition. Nevertheless, coin collectors who practice numismatics often include the 1977 D penny in their collections as part of a complete set of Lincoln cents spanning more than a century of American history. The historical context of 1977 is also interesting. During this time, the United States was under the presidency of Jimmy Carter, and the country was experiencing economic challenges such as inflation and energy shortages following the 1973 oil crisis earlier in the decade. Despite these challenges, everyday coins like the Lincoln cent continued to circulate widely among Americans for daily transactions, such as buying food, newspapers, or public transportation. The coin, therefore, represents not only a piece of currency, but also a snapshot of American life during the late 1970s. Over time, many of these coins developed darker colors as copper oxidized, turning from bright reddish copper to brown shades. Collectors often classify these coins into color categories, such as red RD, red-brown RB, and brown BN, depending on how much original copper color remains. Coins that remain bright red next up. The 1980 D. Lincoln Memorial Cent is a 1-cent coin issued by the United States and part of a long-running Lincoln Cent series, which is one of the most recognized and widely collected coin series in the world. The Lincoln Cent was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the birth of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, and an important leader who guided the country during the American Civil War and worked to preserve the Union. The Lincoln Cent was historically important because it became the first regularly circulating American coin to feature the portrait of a real historical figure rather than an allegorical figure, such as Liberty. The portrait of Abraham Lincoln that appears on the front side, known as the obverse, of the coin was designed by sculptor and engraver Victor David Brenner, whose design has remained on the penny for more than a century with only minor modifications. On the 1980 D penny, Lincoln is shown in a right-facing profile, displaying detailed features such as his beard, hair, and formal coat. Above his portrait appears the phrase, "In God We Trust," which is the official national motto of the United States and expresses the traditional belief in faith and trust in God. The motto has appeared on American coins since the 19th century and became the official national motto in 1956. To the left side of Lincoln's portrait appears the word liberty, symbolizing the fundamental American principle of freedom, democracy, and the rights of individuals. Beneath the portrait appears the year 1980, indicating when the coin was produced, along with a small D mint mark located under the date. This letter indicates that the coin was minted at the Denver Mint, located in Denver, one of the main coin-producing facilities operated by the United States Mint. The reverse side of the 1980 D. Lincoln Memorial Cent features the well-known image of the Lincoln Memorial, a national monument located in Washington, D.C., built to honor Abraham Lincoln's leadership and legacy. This reverse design was created by Frank Gasparo, who served as chief engraver of the United States Mint. The Lincoln Memorial design was introduced in 1959 to replace the earlier weak ears design used on Lincoln cents from 1909 to 1958, and it remained in use until 2008. The memorial is depicted in a detailed architectural style, showing its columns and steps, representing the large marble building that houses the statue of Abraham Lincoln. When examined carefully with magnification, collectors can even see the tiny seated statue of Lincoln inside the memorial building. This makes the Lincoln Memorial penny unique because it shows the same person on both sides of the coin, Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and his statue on the reverse. Above the memorial building appears the inscription, "United States of America," identifying the issuing nation. Directly beneath that inscription appears the Latin phrase "E Pluribus Unum," which means out of many one, symbolizing the union of many states and people into a single nation. At the bottom of the reverse side is the denomination 1 cent, indicating the coin's value within the American monetary system. The 1980 D. Lincoln Memorial Cent has specific physical characteristics typical of pennies from that era. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters, with a smooth or plain edge rather than ridges. The coin is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, which was the standard composition for U.S. pennies before a major change occurred in 1982 when the United States Mint switched to copper-plated zinc due to rising copper prices. Because the 1980 penny was still made primarily of copper, it has the familiar reddish-brown appearance associated with older pennies. Over time, copper coins naturally oxidize when exposed to air and moisture, which causes their color to change from bright red to darker shades of brown. In coin collecting, this color change is important because collectors classify copper coins into categories such as red RD, red-brown RB, and brown BN, depending on how much original copper color remains. Coins that still display their original bright red luster are usually more desirable and valuable among collectors. The year 1980 was also a significant period in American history. At that time, the United States was nearing the end of the presidency of Jimmy Carter, and the country was dealing with economic issues such as inflation, energy shortages, and the aftermath of the 1979 energy crisis. Despite these economic challenges, everyday coins such as the Lincoln cent remained an essential part of daily commerce. Pennies were commonly used in transactions for small purchases like newspapers, candy, or public transportation fares. As a result, billions of pennies were produced every year to meet the demand for small change in circulation. In 1980, the Denver Mint produced more than 5 billion Linko.